I remember I was convinced a man was my husband for years. I even had dreams confirming this. I even had a prophet who confirmed this to me. And all my friends who I told about this, they hyped me up to believe this as well and confirmed it to me and, just kind of pushed me to pursue him. So I did that. I went and pursued this guy through seduction. Mind you, I could feel this tug at my heart, kind of telling me, like, maybe this isn't right because it felt forced. And every time I tried to link up with him, it's like something would go wrong. We was just never in sync. I would get a flat tire, he wouldn't be free, or I wouldn't be free. It was just never in sync. So this whole time, this was God trying to stop me from doing this. But I thought it was spiritual warfare. I was like, the devil is trying to fight what God has ordained. Whole time God was trying to show me, sis, you are being delusional. Nevertheless, I fought to be with this guy, and we ended up just being a little fling and nothing more. But I kept hope. I said, I'm just not going to take anyone serious that I meet because I'm waiting on my husband. So a few years pass, and this guy gets married to someone else. And I'm left feeling utterly disappointed, embarrassed, because I already told people this. And I was like, God, what the hell? Like, I feel like you lied to me. So God says to share this with many of you today. He says, when you refuse truth time and time again, God allows a strong spirit of delusion to overtake you. He allows you to be deceived by a lying spirit for your own downfall because you refuse to hear the truth. Other times, it's a demonic spirit that came upon you to tempt you. We see this spirit in 1 Kings chapter 22, verses 19 and 23. It says, Micah kept on. I saw God enthroned, and all the angel armies of heaven standing attention ranged on his right and his left. And God said, how can we seduce Ahab into attacking Ramoth Gilead? Some said this and some said that. Then a bold angel stepped out, stood before God, and said, I'll seduce him. Some version says, I'll persuade him. And how will you do it? Said God. Easy, said the angel. I'll get all the prophets to lie. That should do it, said God. On your way, seduce him. And that's what happened. God filled the mouths of your puppet prophets with seductive lies because God has pronounced your doom. So back then, the enemy told me that if I pursue this guy, that he would marry me. But that led me to heartbreak, mistrust in God, and disappointment, as well as soul tie contracts. The story this lying spirit told Ahab was that if he went to war, he'd win, but that led to his death. They told him something that sounded good, something that he wanted to hear. He heard this through the mouths of people he trusted, his prophets. Sometimes we hear these lies through our friends, our families. We even have dreams confirming it. Sometimes we hear it from other prophets or pastors as well. We hear something false to lead us to disappointment and failure. I felt this same spirit trying to attach itself to me again this week. Not because God had pronounced my doom, but because I had believed the lie so many times before, this spirit was still attached to my life. It thought it could use the same tactic to make me fall. And because I had never properly cast this thing out, because I didn't even know what it was until now, it tried to tempt me again. It tried to seduce me with the same lie, trying to set up another false love story. And I saw this thing beginning to play out in real life. I started questioning, I wonder if this guy could be the one. Then God gave me a dream. And he said, to tell my angels to go forward and destroy every evil word or stories being spoken against and into my destiny, to destroy every lie written. Because if I don't, these stories will begin to play out in my life and I will begin to believe it as truth. Now, all week, I began to feel this intense, heavy spiritual warfare taking place in my mind. I just didn't feel at peace because the devil wanted me delusional again. I could feel the confusion and just this pressure in my mind. But the moment I did as God said, I felt that thing break. I was driving one night and I said, Devil, I reject your lies. I reject your false stories. And I literally felt this thing just break off of my mind. There was instant peace. I no longer felt confused about who God said He had for me. I no longer felt a desire for that guy. The enemy was trying to push my way. And I didn't even feel attracted to that guy anymore. I just felt this surety that this isn't for me. I believe Samson was also under a strong spirit of delusion with Delilah. If we look at Judges 16 and 5, it says, "So the governors of the Philistines came up to her and said to her, 'Seduce him and see where his great strength lies and how we can overpower him so that we may bind him to humble him.'" The Spirit said the same thing to Ahab. It says, "I will seduce him into believing that he should go to war." Samson was seduced into giving up his secret, believing the lie that he loved this woman. So he pursued her, and that led to him being arrested, tortured, and dying. God says to many of you today that you have been overtaken by a seducing spirit, a lying spirit, in other words. Its job is to persuade you or seduce you into believing a lie that will lead you to your doom and make you doubt God. It's telling you to pursue that man, to pursue that woman, to pursue that career, that you'll look better if you get the cosmetic procedure done. But those are lies to lead you to your destruction. God especially highlighted this week that those considering cosmetic surgery or plastic surgery to be very careful. There is nothing wrong with the way you look. You are beautiful as you are. The devil is trying to set you up for destruction, set you up for failure. So revisit that again. The devil is a great storyteller. In other words, he's a liar. He paints fairy tales and sends strong delusion to lead a person into bondage, soul ties, and even death. And then we get mad at God and we think that God lied, but it was never God talking to you in the first place. I was once ruled by a strong spirit of delusion, believing every lie and accepting every false story. Many of us have been delusional before in our lives. We've seen delusional friends. And sometimes we even look back at something we did and we're like, what the heck was I thinking? Because when that delusion wears off or the spell is broken, you start to see the truth. That person didn't change or get less attractive that you dated back then. You just started seeing them correctly now. That's why you no longer find them attractive anymore. You look back like, "Ugh, I can't believe I dated someone like that, you know?" But they haven't changed. They haven't gotten less attractive. You just started seeing correct. What you did back then that you find cringy now was cringy when you did it back then too. You are just seeing it correctly now. That is what happens when the delusion begins to wear off. So you may be asking, how do I know I'm being lied to? There are always warning signs. God sends warning before destruction. Samson lied to Delilah a few times about where his strength lies, and each time she called the enemies in to test this theory. Those were warning signs that she shouldn't be trusted. Ahab was warned by the prophet Micah before his destruction. There is also resistance when you're trying to pursue a lie. Your car would break down the moment you go to link this dude. The second time you try to link him, you get sick. Third time you try to link him, he's not single anymore. It just never works out. Or you don't have a peace or ease about it. It just feels forced. All of these are signs. If you think that you may have been lied to and believed a lie before, ask God to send his angels to destroy every evil word or stories being spoken against or into your destiny, to destroy every lie written, and then see if you still feel the same way after. Ask God to help you to see correctly. Because God said this week, he is breaking every spirit of delusion. You're not going back this year. You're not falling for another counterfeit man, another counterfeit business idea, another counterfeit woman. This is the year that you walk in your purpose to be who God has called you to be and do what he has called you to do and marry who he has ordained for you to marry. You will no longer believe the lies, says the Lord. For those who have believed the lies and you realize you were tricked, and you find yourself in some trouble because you realize, I already got myself in too deep. I believe the lie and now I'm in trouble. God said there is hope for you. Samson cried out to God and his hair began to grow again. There is restoration available. God says, cry out to me and I will fix it and I will make things right again and I will break the spirit of delusion from off of your mind.